It's time to build those week 4 daily fantasy football lineups. We got you covered here at Big Guy Fantasy Sports with all of the NFL DFS info and stats that you need to build a consistently winning lineup. Colby Conway, Ron Rigny, DFS lineups coming up next.
Yeah, I bet on myself. Yeah, I bet on myself. I don't need you, I do it myself. Yeah, I bet on myself. Yeah, I bet on myself. Yeah.
Let's bet on ourselves once again here, Ron. Let's build a consistent lineup, bunch of consistent options here from the start of the season, and build a winning lineup for week 4 action. So let's go ahead and take a look at the lineup that you and I have built. Let's get me off of the big screen to save everybody there. We zoom in a smidge so everybody can get a good look at this lineup. And Ron, let's go right to the top. We're buying the Caleb Williams hype. We're buying the stock, the Caleb Williams stock, and we're putting him in our lineup here for 5,800. So actually, you were the one that first had the interest in Caleb Williams. So kind of talk to me what's so intriguing about him in week 4 against Vegas.
Yeah, I'm hoping that doesn't cause people to go run and pivot off of him. The fact that I liked him, but when you look at that at the $5,800, you look that he's averaged just a shade under 24 fantasy points here on DraftKings, and you look at the first couple of weeks. Again, a little bit of ups and downs. Like we could expect. That completion percentage isn't there every week like we kind of want it just yet. But last week, going against a bad Dallas defense, went for almost 304 scores. This week, going against a Raiders defense, it is at the Raiders. That doesn't really made me too shy from going Mr. Williams here. But when you look at the dude, he's making plays with his feet. He's extending plays. He's chucking it downfield. He's got receivers. Odunze is continuing the breakout. DJ Moore. He's got weapons. So again, at that $5,800, there's a couple of guys ahead of him that I think you can make a pretty good argument with. But to me, he was where I started with my lineup build this week.
I'm all for it. We love to stack, and we'll talk about Odunze a little bit later. As you can see, he's kind of right there actually probably smack dab right in the middle of our lineup. But before we get there, we'll talk running backs. We're going to Omarion Hampton. I'm expecting ownership to be incredibly high on him. There's no more Najee Harris. And then we saw Hampton go for 24.9 DraftKings points last week. Big thing, 19 carries and 7 targets. That's Christian McCaffrey-esque workload. This is the last time we're going to see Hampton below $6,000. We're going to take advantage of it here because you got a Giants defense who's allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game to running backs. In terms of just pure rushing yards to running backs, they are 5th, as well as 4 scores on the ground. So a lot of times people kind of look at this Giants defense and they're like, oh man, they got Abdul Carter, they got Brian Burns, they got Kayvon Thibodeau, they got all these great pass rushers. They are exactly that. They are not a great rush defense. So Omarion Hampton is there. And if the pass rush does give Herbert a little bit of fits, all you do is invite him in. You drop it right over their heads. And obviously we saw Hampton turn 7 targets into 59 yards through the air last week, so he can be effective there. So Omarion Hampton is simply too cheap, and he's going to be so highly owned in cash games that we have to be involved in the Hampton sweepstakes. And then for our next running back round, we went with James Cook. So talk to me here about I don't even know the word to describe how good James Cook has been with 20 plus DraftKings points in 3 straight.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where he's kind of been the definition of a big play waiting to happen at any time. And the matchup this week, I like both running backs in this matchup in this Saints Bills matchup. I like Alvin Kamara just for the fact that he is the offense and he's going to have to catch the football as well as run it. But James Cook, I think he's worth every penny at 7,100. When you look at that Saints run defense, one of the things I like about it, it's not so much that they've allowed a lot of rushing yards, but they've allowed 2 receiving touchdowns to running backs as well, and that's kind of something that Mr. Cook can do as well. But again, you spoke to the amount of points, just a shade under 25 for his average there. And again, $7,100 when you look at the players you're paying up for, that's really not all that bad. I mean, the only guys above him are the Henrys and Jonathan Taylors and McCaffreys of the world. But I think you can get, again, Cook is averaging more per game than Barkley, Gibbs, Robinson, McCaffrey, any of those guys. The only one he's not eclipsing is Jonathan Taylor. So I think you spend a couple $100 down and you go with the guy that's got the better matchup that's going to get you more points, and that's James Cook.
Yep, and then I'm going to Puka Nacua for our first wide receiver. He is my favorite. I think he is my favorite play in DFS this week, regardless of position. I think he's my favorite play. You look at him here, 25 plus DraftKings points in 3 straight to begin the season. He still doesn't even have a receiving touchdown. He has one touchdown total on the year, which was that rushing attempt against Tennessee. He's got one touchdown on the year. I believe he's the wide receiver one overall in fantasy without a receiving touchdown. He now goes up against the Colts. I should say your Colts, Ron. Gets your Colts here, who I don't think their corners are good.
They're not. You're correct.
They're not good. There's going to be points scored in this game, and the Colts play a ton of cover three. And Puka was one of the best against cover three last
Yeah.
season, and so far this year in a very small sample size, 1.28 fantasy points per route run and a 47.8% target share against cover three. Those numbers are per fantasy points' data suite over there. So Puka's been just elite against cover three. Devontae Adams has missed some practice time this week. They expect him to go, but he might be hampered a little bit. And Matt Stafford just simply can't go wrong when throwing the ball to Puka Nacua. So at 7,900, we are locking him in. And then also, Ron, your top quarterback was Caleb Williams. I mentioned that we were going to talk about Roma. We love ourselves a good stack, and this is a consistent stack. So how do you not go with Roma Dunze?
It definitely is, and Odunze scored a touchdown in each game this season, and he's continued to break out. And the Raiders, we already talked about it. They've allowed 42 receptions for 551 yards and 4 touchdowns to the wide receiver position. So there's no reason to think that those targets won't be there for Roma Odunze. And again, looking at the price point there, $6,300. You talked about how much you like Nacua, 7,900. Again, there's not a whole lot of differences. I mean, there's about a 5 point difference there, but for the price point, when you're paying down $1,600 for Roma Dunze, I like that price point. And pair that with Caleb Williams to get you a nice, affordable mid-tier stack.
We like the Bears to score, so let's bring it back on the other side with Jacoby Myers. He's been solid. You look there. I mean, yeah, he only had 9 points last week, but 12 and 17 the weeks before, putting us right around that 2 to 3x that we're looking for. It's possible that the Bears get back Kyler Gordon, missed practice Wednesday and Thursday, and got a limited session in on Friday. But if Gordon's banged up, or he is banged up, but if he doesn't go, Nick McLeod, if he's going to be their slot corner, quarterbacks have a perfect passer rating when targeting him, and he's allowed 2.06 yards per coverage snap per Pro Football Focus. So love a good slot receiver against the Bears. Love a good player with a pulse against the Bears at this point, if we're being honest, especially with Jalen Johnson out of the mix. But Jacoby Myers in the slot, such a good value this week. I would not be surprised if he crosses the 20-point threshold for the first time this season on DraftKings. And you saw in week 1 and week 2, 10 and 12 targets. I'd expect something like that again. And if we can get a shootout in this game, holy moly, we're going to get plenty of points from our value options there. So got Roma Dunze, got Jacoby Myers. We're going to the tight end. This was a you pick, Ron. I was leaning somewhere else, but we ended up settling in on Hunter Henry with the lineup here. So talk to me about Hunter Henry and why you like him against Carolina.
Yeah, when I'll give you a little freebie from the week 4 sit start this week, but again, just trying to plug that consistency forecaster that we have over at BigGuyFantasySports.com. A great tool that you can go use and look and see trends over the last 3 years of how these guys stack up against good, medium, and terrible defenses, as well as on the road or at home. And when you look at Hunter Henry, clutch games in 2 of the first 3. Drake May targeted him 11 times last week. He hauled in 8 of those for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Am I expecting a stat line like that? I'm not expecting it. Am I saying it's out of the realm? Don't think that either. But against the Carolina Panthers, who are, yes, you guessed it, a bad defense, he's 83% clutch at home against bad defenses over the past 3 seasons. And I can't remember off the top of my head the sample size, but it was one of those sample sizes. It wasn't 2 games. It was, I want to say, more like 8 or 9 games. So the data backs it up. The targets are there. He's clearly the lead tight end. And again, the Panthers are one of the worst in the league, as they usually are against that position. They're 6th worst in the league. So again, pair it with the price that you pay here, and I think everything shakes out for us to get some pretty solid value out of Mr. Hunter Henry.
He's been great at home. So I know I love my home road splits for baseball. Football sometimes is a little bit differently used there, just less of a sample size, but he's been good at home. Round out the flex, Keenan Allen. I don't get DraftKings pricing. How Keenan Allen can have 19 points, then go up $100, have 17 again, then go down $100. He gets 19.5. He did jump up $600, so he's up to 5,300 this week, but that's still too cheap for Keenan Allen. Look at the targets. He's got 7+ targets, 17+ draft points in 3 straight weeks, and he gets this Giants team that's allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. I don't get it. I don't understand the pricing. Andrew Phillips has not been good in slot coverage. So I expect Keenan Allen to thrive when he's in there. Obviously, he'll move outside a little bit too, but his slot snaps are going to be super valuable. Keenan Allen's been so darn good. It fit our lineup perfectly, which almost makes it seem like it's too good to be true. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
another consistent option, sub $6,000 at the wide receiver position, which you kind of see as a little trend for us there after Puka with Odunze, Myers, and Keenan Allen. So those will get rounded out there. And then obviously, when you spend up a lot at other places, you got to give somewhere. So we're going with a relatively underwhelming defense. Tennessee, who's had 10, 4, and -4. But look at the teams they played. Denver,
Mm-hmm.
solid offense. Rams, they've been solid. And obviously, Indy's been one of the, I mean this respectfully, biggest surprises of the year thus far. Now in week 4, they get a Houston team that looks like complete dog water on offense and like bad dog water, like haven't cleaned the bowl in a couple weeks. Like it's pretty disgusting. And the offensive line sucks. Stroud's running for his life. Stroud doesn't look good. The offense is archaic. I don't hate Tennessee at 2,300 this week because what I know, if you go listen to Prop It Like It's Hot, we did both take some overs on a couple of Texans guys, but it's not necessarily indicative of them going out and putting up 30 points. So that's kind of my thought process with Tennessee at 2,300. Anything that you want to add with the Titans D?
No, it's again, it's a value pick, and everything you said is spot on. The only other two I was looking at the Commanders at 3,000 and New England at 3,100. Again, Commanders going against Michael Penix, who's looked solid week 1, and it's been nasty the last 2 weeks. So not much to add to that. One thing I did want to add about Keenan Allen, though, interesting stat that I read this morning that I wanted to share with everybody. We love Keenan Allen over at BigGuyFantasySports.com. He's been one of our guys the last few years. He is about to reach 1,000 receptions, and he could do it in 10 fewer games than Marvin Harrison, which I thought was a really cool stat. Marvin Harrison, one of my all-time favorites, of course, but I thought that just kind of speaks to how silently good Keenan Allen has been over the course of his career. So I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, and then back to the Titans real quick to wrap this up. Look, Rams put up 11 fantasy points against Houston back in week 1. Houston drew the Bucks in week 2. Tampa Bay only went for 4 in that one, unfortunately. But, I mean, they still had 3 sacks against them. And then week 3, Houston played Jacksonville, and Jacksonville went for 12 thanks to 2 interceptions and 2 sacks and just the team looking abysmal. So, hey, for Tennessee at 2,300, if they get 7 points, that's 3x our money. We can't be too upset with that. So that's the week 4 consistently cash and lineup. Caleb Williams, Omarion, Hampton, James Cook, Puka, Nacua, Odunze, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Henry. Hashtag consistency, Keenan Allen, Titans defense. Ron, let everyone know where they can find you and what you got on the BigGuyFantasySports.com website here this week.
Yes, sir. Over at BigGuyFantasySports.com, got the week 4 sit start. Mentioned Hunter Henry in there. A couple other guys in this lineup you might see in that article as well. Of course, you got the who's hot, who's not from our guy next to me there, Mr. Colby Conway. All the consistency goodness over there. James Knight doing work as well. Use that consistency forecaster because it's what I use every week for the sit starts. Gives you all the data you need. Gives you all the matchup stuff you need. Again, low price over there at BigGuyFantasySports.com. Come check it out.
Absolutely. BigGuyFantasySports.com. Check out my Who's Hot, Who's Not article. And if you want some player props for the week, check out the Prop It Like It's Hot podcast and article that Ron and I did this week while the head of consistency is out west doing a little gallivanting around the Pacific Northwest. Not to expose where he is, but I believe technically where he is the Pacific Northwest is what I'll call it. So he's out there, but check it out. Make sure you give me a follow over on X at Colby R. Conway. Best of luck with your week 4 NFL DFS lineups. Win some cash, be in the money, and of course, as always, stay consistent.
Yeah, I bet on myself. I bet on myself. Yeah, I bet.